discussions today on copyright, and we have quite an exciting program planned. So colleagues, without stealing any of the panel's time, as well as our director, I would like to welcome Dr. Komotso Marumo, our Director for Client Services in the library, to warmly welcome us and for her opening remarks. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Dive. Good morning, colleagues. Mine is a short task to do. I'm here to welcome you. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to this important and timely panel discussion of copyright and artificial intelligence. This was a follow-up of the workshop that was held on the 23rd April here at Unisa, where we chose deliberately to mark the intersection of World Book and Copyright Day and the emerging realities of AI in knowledge production. As we all know, the landscape of scholarship, creativity, and information sharing is changing rapidly. Generative AI tools from ChatGPT and DALL-E to Elicit and Copilot are no longer on the periphery. They are now part of how students learn, how researchers work, and how libraries or archives must respond. It is both an honor for me and a privilege also to welcome you today to this panel discussion on a topic that is rapidly reshaping the future of creativity, ownership, and innovation. The theme of this panel discussion, which was the theme of the workshop, says, should AI-generated content be protected in South Africa by the Copyright Act? That's a question. As artificial intelligence continues to evolve and permeates creative industry from literature and music to visual art and software development, we are now faced with a critical question. The question is, who owns the output of a machine? Should a non-human creator enjoy the same protection as a human artist, as an author or an inventor? And perhaps more importantly, what are the implications for South African legal framework, creativity economy, and cultural heritage? Today's discussion, colleagues, is not just about law and technology. It's about values. It's about identity. It's about the future of human expression in an age of intelligent machine. I invite all of us to think openly, challenge assumptions, and explore both opportunities and the risk of granting copyright protection to AI-generated works. Colleagues, as we are going to have the panel who will take us along, I want to welcome you on behalf of the Unisa Library and Information Management team, the Unisa Library staff, the organizing team of this workshop. I want to leave you with this word when we do the panel discussion, to say the panel today will engage with a wide range of crucial and sometimes contagious questions. Those questions include, what exactly are AI-generated works? Who owns them? We'll explore the tension between copyright legislation and AI-generated content. Our expert will provide a status update of Copyright Amendment Bill, helping us to understand its progress and implication for creators, educators, and institutions alike. We'll dive into the promise and limit of generated AI in academia, from its ability to generate research output to concern originality. Importantly, we'll also reflect on the role of AI in library services, including how it shapes search, discovery, and access, and whether our archives are ready to adapt to these new trends. And perhaps most critically, for those of us in higher education, we will discuss the implication of generated AI for student research, what tools are available, how well our students understand and copyright issues at stake. This panel that is going to discuss these colleagues, they are more than just conversation about policy or technology. It's about ethical practice, intellectual responsibility, how we as educators, librarians, archivists, legal experts can respond to change in ways that both future-facing, grounded in principle. Once again, I welcome you, and I want to leave you with this word from Castell in his book of Network Society Theory. He talks about space of places and space of flows. He said the space of places is a space where people live and interact. Today we are talking about copyright and AI. Do we still live there in a space of places? Do we still have sense of belonging? He also talks about space of flows, where he said that's where we talk about electronic network and communication that enable us to engage. He said it's a globalized information. With those words, colleagues, I say feel free. You are welcome to the Unisa Library. Let's take this as an important event and engage. Thank you.
Colleagues, following from what Dr. Marumo, how she has introduced the session and how she's welcomed us, the task is enormous today. She used many, many different concepts that I think will lead us into these interesting conversations. We will continue the discussions, reshape the futures. We will engage to speak about and discuss all of these tensions and challenges and assumptions. And these are just some of the concepts that she has mentioned. So we are all looking forward to the discussions. Colleagues, I would like to introduce the panel now, starting with our moderator, Dr. Nikki Nchano. He is an academic and professional in the field of education and business management. He holds a PhD and currently serves as the Acting Director of Teaching and Learning at Unisa, where he is involved in strategic projects and portfolio performance. His previous role encompasses curriculum and learning development, reflecting his commitment to enhancing educational practices within the institution. In addition to his directorial role or position, Dr. Chano has experience as a senior lecturer in the Department of Business Management as Unisa as well. His academic contributions include research and publications that focus on leadership and commitment in family-owned businesses, AI, governance, among other topics. He is also recognized for his involvement in community engagement and student support initiatives at the university. His professional credentials include being a qualified risk management practitioner, a registered assessor and moderator with the ETDP CETA, the Education Training and Development Practices Sector, Education and Training Authority, and certifications in TQM and financial performance measurement and control, which highlight his diverse expertise beyond academia. And colleagues, how privileged we are to have him as our moderator today. Well, you are welcome. Thank you, Doctor. You can step up to the front. So, colleagues, Dr. Chano will then be joined by our panel, who is hybrid. So our first panel member that we would like to introduce is Mr. Jack Devnarain. He will be joining us online. He's from the South African Guild of Actors. He's the chairperson. Jack started his acting career in Durban, KZN, performing on the community theatre circuit while studying law at the University of Natal, or as we know it now, UKZN, graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in Law in 1993. He holds a certificate in Development Management from the School of Public Policy and Development Management, also from UKZN, in which he obtained in 1996, and he served in the Durban Metropolitan Police Service from 1994 to 2002. He is also a multi-award-winning actor, recognized by the media and his peers for his work on film and TV as an activist for performer rights. He's also known for his role Rajesh Kumar in Isidingo, a TV drama in South Africa. He is also a member of the executive committee of SAGA since 2010, and he has committed himself to the service of professional actors and fair regulation of the performance industry. He is a patron of the Trauma First Responders Chaplaincy and ambassador for Trek for Mandela. Colleagues, he has also previously engaged with us in the previous workshop, and his presentation title was about the impact of AI on performance rights. Please welcome Mr. Jack to the panel, colleagues. Colleagues, our second panel member is Denise Rosemary Nicholson, who has also previously presented at the previous workshop on copyright and digital in, and I love the X, exclusion of people and disabilities. She will also be joining us online, colleagues. She's into scholarly communications and copyright consultant at the Scholarly Horizons in South Africa, which she established in March 2021, and co-founder of the Recreate SA. She worked in different specialist posts at the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg for 38 years, 24 of which she managed the Scholarly Communications and Copyright Services Office. She is an expert advisor to the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, IFLA, and the copyright advisor for LIASA, Creative Commons SA chapter, and NCLIS. She is a member of the Academy of Sciences Scholarly Publishing Committee. She is internationally recognized for her professional work and advocacy in copyright access to knowledge, open access, and scholarly communications. Colleagues, let us welcome Ms. Denise to the panel. Another online panel member, colleagues, is Ms. Eleni Flack-Davison, who is an admitted attorney, a prominent academic known for her contributions to the fields of botany and research ethics, particularly within the context of Southern Africa. Her recent work includes a significant publication on compliance with Nagoya Protocol, which addresses the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from genetic resources. She's currently employed at a University of the Witwatersrand as a legal advisor and the research compliance manager, and she's joining us to bring her expertise and her legal advice to the panel. Colleagues, let's welcome Ms. Flack-Davison. Our fourth panel member, colleagues, for those colleagues who know Dr. Mosako,
no stranger to us. Dr. Daniel Musako is a senior lecturer at Unisa, specializing in galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. His work often explores the intersection of digital technologies and art museums, particularly in Gauteng, SA. He has contributed significantly to museum education strategies and virtual arts, including tuition in the field of the LIS. His research emphasizes sustainable development and accessibility in cultural institutions. You are welcome, Dr. Musako. Please join us here in front. Colleagues, Ms. Refilwe Pala is an information science professional with a master's degree in information science, advanced management certificate from UP, and an advanced postgraduate supervision certificate from Unisa. She has extensive experience in research librarianship and has led workshops on trends in librarianship, academic integrity, and ethical use of AI. Ms. Pala has collaborated with various Unisa departments and presented at LIASA and SAOUG conferences. At the University of Pretoria, she founded the InfoLit program and contributed to the Digital Information Literacy Initiative at Unisa. As a member of the Unisa AI task team, she contributed in drafting the Unisa's AI policy and AI guidelines. She also contributed in drafting of the self-evaluation review document and a training manual at the Unisa LIS. Her previous paper colleagues concentrated on navigating the complexities of the AI integration in the library services and operations. Colleagues, let's welcome Ms. Pala as our, is it the fourth or fifth panel member? Welcome, Ms. Pala. And then colleagues also who will be joining us physically is our last panel member, who is Dr. Shivase. Dr. Shivase is also a Unison colleague, also works at Unisa. I'm just quickly going to run through some of his work experience. He started as a professional educator in rural Venda and then moved to Pretoria in the late 80s. He worked at various schools in Pretoria. He has also been employed by the Vaal University of Technology in the Department of Communication, Language and Education. During this time, he won an award of being one of the youngest researcher of the year. He spent some time in the Netherlands at, on a fellowship program. So colleagues, to jump to the last part, on the 1st of August 2023, he was appointed as the Executive Director, Academic Planning in the Portfolio Teaching, Learning, Community Engagement, Student Support at Unisa. Colleagues, we would like to welcome Dr. Shivase as our last panel member. Welcome, Doctor. I am now going to hand over, colleagues, to Dr. Chano to then lead the panel.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I will act like a pastor. Good morning, everyone. Now I can hear you. Are you all well? Thank you so much for joining us on this interesting webinar. We met at what is the venue here down? Miriam Makeba, I wanted to say Winnie Mandela, Miriam Makeba Hall. And we were looking at AI, intersecting it with copyright. Just a second, Ellen is struggling to join. If you can ask Tsepo to assist him. I just got a WhatsApp message. So when we met, there were different presentations that were made by our panelists. And I want us to continue, but for us to continue, we need to bring on board those colleagues that were not with us that day when we were making presentations. And I think when we met, at that time, one of the critical decisions that we were waiting was the court ruling as far as the copyright bill is concerned. And I think we have been waiting for a bit of time. The presidency or the president himself had to refer it because there were certain sections that he was also not sure about, but equally so because of, I think it's blind essay that also dictated that particular bill. And I want to start with you, Dr. Chivase. From your perspective, and all of you will give your understanding now of the ruling, that now with the bill as it is, it was found that it was unconstitutional, that part of copyright has to limit, and I'm paraphrasing, has to limit for people with disabilities. And I want you to unpack it succinctly for the audience and everyone that is joining us online to say, what is the implication of that court ruling now on the entire copyright bill? Let's start with Dr. Chivase.
Thanks so much, Dr. Chano. And indeed, we need to acknowledge that the issue of the copyright bill has taken some time. Really, it has been, I think, in Parliament for 3, now almost going to fourth year. Which for some of us, those that have got interest in copyright, starts to be very, very suspicious, to say, what is it that is so difficult? And we'll also remember that also in terms of it, the comment from the Parliament and also possible the President was that he's fine with part of the copyright, but is not totally satisfied, and yet hence to say it must go back to court. Now, I think in context of South Africa, we're fortunate. We're really, really fortunate because we still got these 3 entities. We got Parliament, we got executive, we got judiciary. And we hope judiciary will come to assist us, more especially when they look at the cracks of the matter in between. However, I think we're also, one way or another, being influenced by the geopolitics happening in the space, more especially when we look at the AI issues. Recently I've read that, if you read the OECD report, Organization of European
Development.
Yes. If you read that report, I think it's becoming very, very clear that there is, when it comes to AI-generated content, copyrighted or not, there are also vested interests. There are also vested stakeholders that have got interest in it. And if one wakes up and say, should AI content be copyrighted? The first answer, if you put that on my face, will be say yes. Because I'll argue to say there's been some thoughts and input that went into that work to be generated. However, if you move to the second level and say now, who must own this copyright of the AI? Should it be service providers, those that have made these machines, people that develop formulas for algorithms and so on? So I would say, no, maybe we need to be careful, So yeah, let me pause there.
Thanks. In fact, you are already going to the second part of the question. For me, I just want your own reflection, Dr. Masak, as to, in terms of the recent court judgment, what does it imply for a layman's person, so that then we can kickstart our discussion from there?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Jano. What Dr. Shivas has already said lays the, should I say, levels the plateau. In actual fact, the bill, I think it's section 13B, it says when someone is physically differently abled, actually, they cannot see or hear, probably the whole document, which is a book that was written by yourself, can be transcribed using digital technology, and the reader can listen to it or maybe can transcribe it into Braille. By so doing, we are copy it in a different format from the owner. The initial bill of 2017 said no part of the section should be duplicated for any other purpose. So we do respect that, but with the new bill coming up, in order to be an act, may we please consider that AI can be used to transcribe and reuse particular format of a certain authentic document, let's say your thesis, that can be digitally scanned for someone who has a visual impairment to listen to it or maybe read it through Braille.
Thank you. Merefile, your understanding of the recent court case in terms of the space that we found ourselves in, what does it mean? What does it imply to you? Close it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chanu, and thank you, colleagues. To me, it's basically to say, as a librarian, how do we then integrate the work that we're doing within this bill? Are we also represented within this bill or this Copyright Act? And I would say that what is getting, what I can say blurry, is the fact that AI doesn't necessarily belong to South Africa. Most of the AIs that we are using are not necessarily South African products. So which copyright are we actually looking at? Are we going to also integrate with maybe the EU policies, the American policies, and also thinking about the fact that which, can I say, documents has the AI, the information that the AI has generated. In terms of the library space, we're talking about Creative Commons and fair use. Is it only the sources that are on the open source, or are we talking also about sources that are actually paid? So for me, it brings a lot of underlying multifaceted issues that I'm looking at, and as I said, particularly from the perspective of a librarian. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to check if colleagues online are with us. Denise, I just want to test with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Thank you so much. Your presentation last time focused on people with disabilities and in terms of their constitutional rights. And as we're reflecting on the recent Constitutional Court that held that particular Section 6 and 7 were found to be unconstitutional. What does that imply? And I want you to locate your response around the fair use.
Well, first of all, I was told that I was going to give some sort of summary of our presentation. So I just wanted to give you some of it. I'm not going to use up too much of your time, but I just thought I'd talk about AI and those issues as well.
Yeah.
As a copyright amendment bill was too far down the legislative road when AI made its appearance, the bill does not address AI. This is probably a good thing, as research is necessary to decide where AI actually belongs. Countries around the world are grappling with AI and how to regulate it. Some have passed legislation, others have policies and guidelines, but AI, as we know, is a moving target, and it is quite difficult to decide how to regulate it. There are many issues around copyright, and the use of copyright works for AI training has resulted, and this has resulted in many actions in the US, as you may know. No final sort of court decisions have been made yet, or precedents, so we wait to see, how it turns out. But possibly a sui generis type of legislation would be the most appropriate for AI, as it embraces copyright and other intellectual property as trademarks, designs, etc., as well as technological developments and others. The government, many universities and research institutions are already working on a national AI policy, and some have already got AI policies for their own students and staff and users in the libraries. People with disabilities have found that there are many AI tools that can assist them. For example, to describe what an image looks like, what a film, an audio description of a film, how to find a certain place like GPS, translating into other languages. So AI for disabilities, people with disabilities, is quite a positive thing. In my presentation, I did speak about the current law and the omissions, the discrimination and the restrictions. And one of them, of course, is that the High Court and the Constitutional Court found that the current law is unconstitutional relating to disabled people. So the court drafted a Section 13A provisions which were to be read into the bill for 2 years. The expiry date was the 21st of September 2024, hoping that by then the President would sign the bill. The President did not sign the bill, so the blind SA had to go back to the court to challenge why the President didn't sign the bill. As a result, the President sent the bill to the Constitutional Court, saying that some of the clauses that were reviewed in the parliamentary review were still not constitutional, and that he wanted a decision from the Constitutional. Now, on the 7th of May 2025, the court handed down its final order in the Blind SA matter, declaring it urgent and ordering that Section 19D replace those Section 13 temporary provisions, so that Section 19D of the Copyright Bill is immediately added into the current law and becomes part of the current law. So now visually and impaired people and other disabled people can convert material into accessible formats without having to go through provision, getting permission and paying for it. So that has been a major victory for blind and visually impaired people, but also for people with oral, physical and learning disabilities. This Section 19 covers all disabilities where people are restricted or prevented from accessing information. What's also good about it, they will be able to sign, South Africa will be able to sign and ratify the Marrakesh Treaty of 2013, so that they will be able to exchange accessible formats with other countries. So it's a very positive move that the court has ruled. Just to give you some feedback on the hearing itself, the Constitutional Court hearing on the bill itself, on the 21st and 22nd of May, the Concord heard submissions from various parties for and against the bill. I attended these hearings and sorry.
It was not him, but
I think someone has got their mic open. If you can just check technical team. Sorry, Dennis, someone has got their mic on.
On the 21st and 22nd of May, the Constitutional Court heard submissions from various parties and amici curiae, or friends of the court, in support of and against the bill. I attended these hearings and I was actually very surprised at the lack of knowledge of two... Sorry.
Okay.
Someone's got the up, thanks. I attended these hearings and was very surprised at the lack of knowledge by two of the judges of how libraries function and what their services are. They asked simple questions: why do we need interlibrary loans? Why are videos allowed to be watched in a library? Fortunately, some presenters gave them the reasons why, but I was quite surprised that they wouldn't know why libraries have those functions. I do say that it's hoped that the court will make a favourable decision on the bill as soon as possible, so that the bill can be signed by the President to remedy the barriers, omissions and discrimination in the current bill. However, just to let you know that it will take some time because draft regulations will still have to be put out for public comment. And then the government will also have to put in place various systems to implement the Act. There's various clauses like the registration of collecting societies, they'll have to put a system in place for that. Orphan works, they'll have to put a system in for that, and various others. So we gather that it could even take something like 2 years after the bill is approved, that it might then come into effect. So in the meantime, we still have to comply with the current outdated 1978 Copyright Act. So I hope that gives you some sort of answer in a nutshell.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dennis. And I will come back to you immediately now. What does this then mean in terms of authorship in general? Yes, it is a victory on one hand for those with disabilities, but generally for authorship, for authors like myself, what does it mean? What does it imply?
Okay, well, first of all, AI at this stage is not protected by the copyright law. So you have to be a human author to get copyright protection. It's very difficult to say how AI is going to turn out because we need a balance between the ownership of and creatives as to protection for their works, but AI is also a very good tool for many purposes, and we have to have a balance where you can use material to create tools, etc. I'm not quite sure how they're going to regulate that because it's going to be very difficult. How do you, if you want to develop a tool, how do you go and ask every single author around the world if you can use their work for this particular training thing? It's going to be extremely cumbersome. So I think fair use will come into the effect to a certain extent. But so far, some of the cases that have been heard or are being heard in America, fair use has not proved to be the tool that will help. So, it's going to, I think, we'll have to see how things work out because nobody's really found the solution to it. Obviously creators want to protect their work, but how do you stop people using it for purpose of education, research, training? Obviously there's a lot of open access material that can be used, but they also have to use other material. And whether authors are going to have give some consent for certain things, maybe for educational research purposes, that may have to happen, like it is in copyright where you've got exceptions. But it's going to be extremely difficult because it affects patents and other intellectual property as well. So there's no true answer at this stage as to how it's going to be dealt with, unfortunately.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dennis. I think you have given us sort of a comprehensive response. Eleni, I think I saw you online. Are you able to open your mic as well? Eleni? Okay, looks like we don't have her yet. I want now to bring it back now as we continue the discussion, especially now to locate it around the fair use. And you will have heard from Dennis indicated that from her own perspective, it's going to be difficult, and even in the US, it did not really prove the results in terms of the fair use. And I want us now to reflect to say, with this recent court judgment and Parliament still being given time to go and revise some of those sections, how do you then see us as South Africa, noting that we are still developing a national AI policy framework with the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies, but how do we then define fair use from South African perspective with what you know? But I want you to bring the element of ethics into your response as you are thinking to say, how do we then balance fair use on one hand and ethical? We zoom on that ethical lens to say, do you see practical? If it is not, what are the challenges that you foresee? Let me start with you, Dr. Musak.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Chano, and thanks for the presentation and the roundup of the bill itself. I am of the opinion that we do understand that when material sits in a library, the role of the library is to make the material accessible to the end user, much as it is the role of the library, recent one, of course, yes, to equate and equip the staff members on how to use AI tools so that the end user can be able to utilize and use those tools as well. We may as well as put up a flyer or information or a business page on AI utilization in a library in order to access information. So the information should not be inhibited to be accessed. It's a human right. It goes in a bill as well. It goes in the constitution as well. So in order to respect that, let the library understand how to legalize, buy the licenses for AI utilization in order to get information accessible to the people. Now, how will the author be able to be acknowledged? I think we need to reverse that. When open access was created as an open web space, most authors said, no, I'll put my material off open access, but they were losing out on citations. So we should look into which benefit lays ahead when we let our material to be accessed by the world through AI. Maybe an element of popularity might come in, so we need to look into which element is possible for us to benefit from this very two sides of the coin. Thank you.
Before, but I want you to go back. Fair use and ethics. Let's link them.
Once more, deontologically, when one looks into fair use and non-fair use, we have the many theories of which some of them are reverting to the traditional ones of theory of Ubuntu. We wouldn't say someone is doing something because Ubuntu practice is not there. But we need to understand that on the consciousness of the person, it might be trampled upon. But on institutional basis, we need to respect the theories of Ubuntu. We must just need to respect deontological usage, which is ethics in the component. We need to have a process of ethical utilization of AI, material utilization and sharing. That's why I'm going like, let's have the licenses board. Library buying the licenses for your utilization, that means sources access from the library to the end user. The author can sue the institution based on what they have. So we'll have standard operating procedures to say, do we scan or do we vet you first before we scan?
Thank you so much. Let's go to Dr. Chivas and then we'll go to Mepan.
Thanks, I agree with Doc here. I think one can just looking at this bill, and the debates and contest for the past 3 years. I think majorly the contest has been on fair use, and why? If you ask me to say why is the contest on that terrain, the fair use has become not only a point of contestation; it has become a bone of contestation. And if you dig deeper to say, why is it like this? I suspect it is because of the balance in terms of saying, if I've created this work, what is my expectation for the next person that will be using using this work that I've created, and what do I see as a fair use? And that is where the contestation side comes in, because if I've created it thinking that, this must bring something to me, and then immediately I'll start to shift the goalpost in terms of definition of fair use. And I also think the court was also battling, possible, more especially on the list of the fair uses, that those items that are saying, hey, you'll be doing it fairly if you do this, if you do from this list, And hence, I think maybe in order for us to move forward, one wishes that we could have all the creators of this work in one room and then ask them to say, what do you think is fair use? I'm a very innocent person. I want to use some of your work. What are the parameters that you will say, yes, you have used my work fairly or not? Thanks.
So basically you're saying nothing about us without us. So those who are creating a content should be the one that are at the forefront of leading the definition of the fair use.
Yes, creators and users. I think they must be under one room where we can really, really debate these issues out. And I also think that is where the library really will play a very, very critical role, Oh, yes, because, by the way, I've spent about 6 years working at a special school, and I know that it becomes very, very difficult for blind students if we don't really create very fair use parameters for these students to succeed, So it's a disclaimer that I'm a bit biased maybe in this debate. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Mephala?
First of all, Doc, I'm thinking from the librarian's perspective, we have to be transparent. We have to think about when you use somebody's information, at least acknowledge them. At least tell people what part of that information have you used and why you have used it. And I think it becomes a principle now of AI. Even when you publish, you have to say, what have I used? Let's say, for example, in terms of publishing, you have to say, I have used it in my methodology and this is how I've used it. So that element of transparency has to come up at fore. And also the issue of accountability. We're looking at, from the library's perspective, where we're saying we are actually operating in the university. So whatever that happens, it has to also be accountable for the collective responsibility of the university. So for me, it's all about academic integrity. It takes us also to an element of academic integrity, where we should understand that using information is also because with fair use, what we are also saying is that we shouldn't start everything from the ground level. If Dr. Janu has written something and I want to actually refute or moderate, put an impact on that work, then I should be doing this. But in doing that, the ethical element should also be recognized and actually be used fairly. I think that will all not only, especially when we're talking about academic integrity, will also help us in terms of dealing with issues of plagiarism. Just copying and pasting other people's work and doing whatever we want with the spirit of teaching and learning, and not creating revenues from other people's money. It works. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dennis, I'm back at you now. In your last remark, you were then indicating that fair use has actually not produced the desired results. Let's bring that home to South Africa to then say, how do you foresee us overcoming what other countries are already struggling in terms of fair use, and perhaps juxtaposing it with diverse society that we have, the challenges that we have? Yes, AI is not yet accommodated in the policy, but when we reach that stage, how do you foresee fair use being played out?
There are 4 criteria that you have to meet before you can copy or reproduce anything. There's US and 12 other countries have got fair use, and the current situation is that they, because they've got fair use, they can use our publications. They can also use any other country's publications fairly and lawfully under fair use, where South Africa, if we want to use our own copyrighted materials or any other country, we can't because we don't have fair use. So there's an imbalance already with developed and developing countries as to how fair use works. Secondly, fair use is fair. It's not free always, it's fair. You have to abide by the factors. But there are some very good things that you can do with fair use. And America and all these other countries are doing it already and enjoying it. So why shouldn't South Africa do it? There's an argument, and it's been contested, that our fair use provisions are far wider than America or any other country. It's not. The little word such as gives examples, but America can do everything that we do, or will do in our bill. So there's no thing about it being broader or wider or unfair. Also, regarding AI, I think the reason why some of the cases haven't, settled for fair use is that it's direct copying also. But there's also an argument that AI doesn't copy directly. It takes, scrapes and uses it in a different way, which is a transformative work. And that is okay under fair use if you're creating something different, not the same thing, or you're also not competing with the same item in the market. So fair use, in fact, is a very good provision, and South Africa desperately needs it. I mean, fair dealing is so restrictive, it doesn't even address the digital world. So I think people who are against fair use have really got the wrong idea, because another thing is we talk about users and producers, or users and creators. In the digital world, we're all the same. There's a blurred line between creators and users. Users create all the time, creators use all the time, and to create new work you have to use other people's work, and that is why fair use is so necessary. You need to be able to go and get inspiration from different artworks and that to create new artworks, or to create a new book. Nobody sits and does something original without using other people's work. So fair use is a very good tool to be a fair and lawful tool to be able to use other people's work. It's not illegal, it's not unfair, it's not just using someone else's work for the sake of it. There are certain criteria that you have to do, and you must acknowledge. And that's quite clear in the bill. So I think, anybody considering that fair use is dangerous or not going to help authors. Authors are creators, and creators are authors and users. And we all need fair use and the exceptions in various avenues. I mean, there's musicians who teach music, so they need fair use and exceptions to teach music. And in any other field. So it's a cross thing. It's no longer users and producers or creators. We all want. I mean, libraries publish, libraries are custodians. They share material, they create material, they're publishers. So we all need these provisions, and as I say, the bill does that for us, and it's very urgent that we have this so that we can carry out our work in a digital environment. So I think fair use is going to be a part of this whole AI debate. It hasn't proved to be in some of the examples because possibly they are commercial exploitation has been affected. If you're affecting someone's commercial exploitation of their works, then certainly it is not fair use. But where it is for research or educational purposes, I'm sure that in time it will be found to be fair use. It's something that will be developed, and jurisprudence obviously will be developed in our country too once we have copyright, the amended bill. There's an argument that we don't have enough or any jurisdiction about fair use at the moment, but we can always get examples from other countries who have it. Israel and Singapore and others have developed their own laws over the time, just as we've developed constitutional law. We'll develop laws about this too. So I think we must look at fair use as a very positive tool that we will be able to access and make people's works available, but also that authors and creators will get the benefit of their works where it is not fair use and where they have to get permission to and pay for it. Someone mentioned licensing. Yes, there are licensing opportunities as well, but of course you don't want all material to be licensed. You don't want to be paying for every single item that you want to access. There are exceptions for education, for research, for libraries, for disabled people now. So we have to find that balance, but it's going to be a difficult balance in AI, definitely.
Yeah, thanks so much. I want us to try to answer one of the key questions of this webinar. And I think I'm building up on what you said, Denise, around fair usage. And maybe let's now shift our focus to the generation of content. And now it is particularly around the AI-generated content. If you can then check, Mephala, you mentioned issues around academic integrity, and that is why there are a lot of institutions, both public and private, that are trying to come with laws, regulations, to try to regulate this particular space in terms of generation of AI content. Do you think that AI-generated content should be copyrighted? And I think that question, we try to answer it from perspective of who owns that data. If I prompt AI LLM, I'm the prompter, I use my cognitive ability to prompt. Psychology says to us, we are all different. How I think, how I perceive things is different from the next person. But if we adopt that assumption, do you think we should be regulating the AI-generated content in terms of copyright? Should it be copyrighted? Let me start with you, drawing from what you said in terms of balancing academic integrity. And I think, Dr. Musaka, you also talked about the ontologies of ethics as well. Let's start with Ms. Phala.
Yeah, Doc, I think for me it becomes a very difficult question in the sense that copyright is more about human abilities. And I understand that you're saying when you prompt, you then put forward your intelligence. But the question that now becomes the critical aspect is the machine. Do we then say this machine, if it's this machine, let's say in terms of, give an example of ChatGPT, can we then say ChatGPT in the reference wrote this thing after you prompting? I understand the underlying fact could be that it might give you an indication or support your research or support whatever that you're doing. But in terms of giving it that backup of saying we protect it, I don't think I'm pro, that line of thinking, because it remains a machine, and the machine that not only depends on your prompt, it also depends on other people's works. So again, be it the open source fact articles or sources that are out there, your websites, everything. At the same time, you still have to be sure. Let's take ChatGPT once again. Be sure that it didn't hallucinate. Now, that becomes again the issue of saying, how far can you trust that the sources that it has used not only are legitimate in terms of credibility and authority and the context that were written for, but also from the perspective of saying it can be just any other person that has written this thing, probably, let's say, for an argument's sake, social media. They just took their own understanding and wrote it there, and then it took that and write it there. The issue of biasness also comes into play, So my thing is that when we come to copyright, I'm still saying we cannot copyright the machine. I stand with that argument of saying it is a machine, it remains a machine, but yes, I understand the element of a human skill and also understanding again, which deepens the argument is, as and when you prompt, it becomes a deep learning. It always learn from whatever that you have said. So it becomes a very blurry and a difficult question to answer at this point in time. Thanks, Doc.
But I'm hearing you saying you are not supportive of
it being
copyrighted
because I believe that it's not an author.
Okay. And you are sitting next to the author. Let's hear the author's view.
Well, thank you very much, Mempala, and thanks, Dr. John and Dennis, for the presentation. I opine that we need to acknowledge that when we were using the typewriter, we had some challenges. Much as it was good, then we became very thankful that the computer came in, that it can search for a word, select it for you and highlight it for you instead of reading through a document. So I think let's acknowledge AI for what it is, for the fact that it can be used. I'm speaking from library perspective. It can go through text. It can help us to assimilate information for the end user so that the end user benefits. So in that sense, now coming to the outside as a producer, Dennis is right. We don't produce from a vacuum. That's why we go to exhibitions to observe the trends, to look at the current movement from Renaissance to modernity to stylization to abstract and cubism. So that informs the current information for the next generation. So I'm saying when AI generated content is in a popular domain, what we need to do, we need to map it on how to use it in certain sectors. That's why certain institutions will go like, we use AI and here's our standard operating procedures for us to use AI within the industry. So I'm saying libraries should come up with those things that here's an AI tool that we have licensed, you can use this so that when you get sued, we can attest that we've got this standard operating procedures for it. When it's used outside those contexts, then it's a different case and different scenario altogether. So I'm saying I do support AI generated. The main thing that I will propose is that much as I will source from different artworks in order to produce a new one, let the user use AI, which is grafting from elsewhere. Let the users bring their own voice into it. Let them read synchronize and go like, I concur, I don't concur, I opine this is not right. Then they'll give us their own voice, because their own voice will also influence AI-generated information for the next people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shivas. So I want the audience to capture your final position. What is your final position?
I will embrace it.
You embrace it. So no need for copywriting.
With operating procedures.
Oh, it must be done with some caution. That's what I'm. Okay. Let's hear Dr. Chivas.
Yes, I think, thanks. Yeah, Dr. Chan, you are putting us in a very difficult position. but I think it's fair also to say, maybe at the very element, you know, when one follows these debates around the AI-generated content, whether it should be copyrighted or not. You know, I'm going to quote one of the chief engineer in one of the big corporations that develops this AI-generated content.
Yeah.
He said the major challenge is that, yes, you can use AI-generated content. However, at times, you know, it will give you totally something new that you may also claim a fair use in that regard. However, he cautioned that unfortunately, at the end of the day, we don't even know where did this content come from. So then, what are we copywriting? What are we copywriting? And I agree with Memo to say, are we copywriting to say the machine generated this content? You know? And when I follow this debate, in other avenues, they are arguing to say we are really in this problem because copyright law, originally, copyright law was associated with a human being. You know, not with a machine. You know. Now, because it's associated with a machine, then that is why we find ourselves in here. However, one will pronounce to say again, if we are using AI-generated content and we are definitely sure of where is it coming from, then it must be copyrighted. But however, if we are not sure, we end up also being confused. You know, we get into that confused space. Yeah, maybe I'll add something else because also I think we need also to, as I mentioned in the beginning, to say, I think the geopolitical arena that we are in at times influences these kinds of debate, you know. And also you also see the growing tendencies of capitalism, which at times I say capitalism has become much more bigger than the governments, you know, at present state. And whatever role the government want to play, more especially on the issues of copyright and so on, to say public use, fair use, then the government will dictate to us because, I mean, not the government, capitalism will dictate to us because they're becoming bigger than the government. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Dennis online. Well, how do you respond to the question, should the AI-generated content be copyrighted?
No, I definitely say that humans need to be above AI. We need to be in control. AI books are being generated at the moment. Whose works are they using to generate that material? Are they using other people's work? Clearly they must be. Secondly, who gets the copyright fees? If it's a machine, big tech probably. Who do we get permission from if we want to use an AI work? Do we go to big tech again? Who do we sue if they've infringed our work? Are we going to sue big tech because they're the ones out there making the AI? And I do think that humans need to be in control. We need to make sure that we have control over knowledge. AI is producing a lot of bias, as the previous speaker said, hallucinations, false information, unreferenced material. I just tell people, use it for the benefit of improving your life efficiencies and that, but do not use the content. The content is, I've recently just tested AI just with a few simple questions, and they've got all the facts wrong. Just a date, a history date, and they've got the dates wrong. So I don't even trust AI. I use it for editing and grammar and getting a better title for a presentation, say, paraphrasing, those sort of things. It helps, but don't consider content. So for research or anything else, because you're going to find that it's either copyright infringed or it's false, it's biased, etc. So I just say no. I don't think that AI should be. Also, it should be from knowledge, and we get copyright because we put something into it, knowledge, a skill. You don't just get copyright for anything, like a telephone book, for example. You have to put some knowledge and work into it. So, is the machine going to get the copyright fees, etc., or is the author? I think we need to be in control.
Yeah. Humans should be in control. I think this is where now we bring in the audience.
Humans, let's be in control.
Thank you so much, Dennis. I'm told there are 2 questions on the chat, also in the room. If there is anyone who wants to reflect, I think you have already heard position of our panelists here, both in the room here and as well as Dennis online. This is an opportunity for you to start engaging. What are your reflection points? Do you also believe, or are you also supporting what the panelists are saying, to then say there is no need to copyright it? And I think Dr. Masaga said, if we have to go that route, there must be some element of control as far as that is concerned. If you can go to the screen, the technical team, and you beam those 2 questions, while also those that want to ask, they can raise their hands online so that we can recognize them. I see the one from Adela. Is it a question or is it a comment? I think it's more of a comment. AI-generated works outputs created by AI systems without human creative input in actual content generation. Examples include images, text, code produced by models like ChatGPT, DALL-E, Music LM. If humans can guide the process significantly, the work might be considered AI-assisted rather than fully AI-generated. So I think this is more human-computer interaction. I see Dorothy, long time. I see you've got your hand up. Please come through. Are you going to take a perspective of tourism, because I know you are in tourism?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chano, and good morning, everybody. I actually have a question from the other side of copyright, not so much the outputs of AI and whether they should be copyrighted, but it's a question as an academic in terms of seeking guidance as to what can we put into AI that is still ethical, or by putting our content in to get whatever we're seeking out, are we infringing copyright? So just 2 examples. For example, let's say you took some Unisa study guide. So the copyright belongs to Unisa. You take a section, you pop it into ChatGPT, and you ask them for some ideas of multiple choice questions, for example. Does that action not infringe the Unisa copyright, because I'm now taking something that belongs to Unisa and I'm popping it on there and I'm feeding the machine, and now it's out there? So that's just one example. Another example, you might take a bit of your research, for example, or an abstract that you've written, and say, give me a good idea of a title. Now I've gone and put out my research, whether it comes from an article or whether it comes from a PhD or a master's. Is that now not, but yet the work is not acknowledged? I'm not putting it in there and saying this comes from so-and-so. So I guess my question is more seeking guidance in terms of what do I put in? What is ethical and what is not ethical? And am I infringing the copyright of maybe my own research work or Unisa's study guide material? Those are just 2 examples. There are many. I hope that makes the question clear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. What a difficult question for Dr. Chivas. I'm saying for Dr. Chivas because he is the one leading our university policy on copyright and plagiarism. Am I right? So you are more relevant to respond to Dorothy's question.
Yeah, but thanks. And indeed, it's a very, very difficult question. Maybe we also need to look at, we know that the copyright bill is still in the process of becoming a law, Just to say, in terms of the copyright, we know that Unisa study guide, the copyright is held by the institution. And then when you take part of it, and you post it to ChatGPT so that it can generate some, for me, I think we don't need to, should I say, you must not acknowledge it. I think it may depend on the amount, on the content that we are going to put it on this to generate new ideas. However, also as a caution, the further danger to that will come to say, whatever would be generated from somewhere else, then will you also be able to trace the source or not, Because you see, that's the problem that we, the other time I was talking to one academic, he said, no, I'm using these. I said, no, as part of assessment. I said, no, okay, you know what you can do? Take it onto ChatGPT. ChatGPT will give you answers, And then what you need to do, take those answers from ChatGPT and then send to the students. And ask the students to say, do they notice the difference? How can they, answer this question well? Whereas already know that you have got this information from ChatGPT. So for me also to come back directly to the question, I would say depending on the amount, but if a small amount that you want to put on the ChatGPT and generate other ideas, that will be good. But we don't need to generate other ideas that will, at the end of the day, make us also go wild, And that is why also this, the engineers who were searching this were saying, you may generate more knowledge that also generate more knowledge. And at the end of the day, you get up confused. And I think like Dennis is saying, now you may end up not trusting, even whether it's the right answer or not, because you have generated more and more, which will lead you to, if you generate the first level, it's lies, not the truth. You generate more, it will be more lies, and, and that can become a problem. I think that will be my response. But
Maybe before you give them a chance, and I want to expand Dr. Kiro's question, because I think she was asking, what if I take part of that?
Oh, okay.
Right, and I think you say, if it is a sort of a small amount or manageable amount, and let's not really go into the definitions in terms of what will be a smaller amount.
Yes.
And I think we know as Unisa, we are also confronted with a problem of other third parties reproducing our study material and making money out of that, right? And I think that question is timely because there is a need for, much as we have heard about regulation, particularly from what will be the Unisa material, right? And you answered, what if it is the part that I'm taking? And I'm now saying, if I take entire study guide, put it into any AI model, is that permissible or not from the policy perspective, copyright policy perspective?
Thanks. For me, Dr. Chan, I'll ask to say, why will you need to do that? And if you answer me, say, I've got this reason, then I will give you my answer. For example, for me, if you say I'm putting my whole study guide, I want just to see what is happening outside, However, you should really have a very strong backbone to say, I know what is happening outside, and then if I found that I've put it out there and I'm generating false knowledge, then I'll not accept it because I've got this grounding, So I'll yes, I'll say yes or no, depending on why are you doing that? Why do you want to put the whole of your study guide on the
I think
GPT?
Without really going to debate or maybe a dialogue, and I also want to recognize those that want to come into this question. Whether we like it or not, there are those that are already doing it, right? And I think it is coming from perspective to say, if I'm not talking for Dorothy's case, but she's trying to say, I see opportunities, We're already saying students are not allowed to submit AI-generated work. They should have their voice in that and so forth. And from the AI policy, I will also come, because I think at some point the two committees need to sit and align.
Yes.
Because I may not be sure about specific section in the AI policy, but what we are proposing is that academics are allowed to use AI for assessment purposes, right? Just as students are allowed. And you gave an example to say, academics can then use that part and then ask students to then say, do you see the difference? And that's where now critical thinking, high order thinking of Bloom's taxonomy, if we like, comes through. And if now there is embracing part, I think Dr. Msaka also talked about embracing AI earlier in one of his responses. If we are embracing the use of AI as a university, of course there should be checks and balances here and there, right? And I think I was coming from that perspective to say, it may be allowed for a portion of study material, but what about that one who will put entire material there, from copyright and plagiarism policy perspective? And perhaps it might be some of the things that as a committee, you may want to go and have a look and say, if we have got this, because it is a human behavior, how do we then regulate it? Is it permissible? Is it not permissible? What are the dangers and what are the opportunities, of course? Because half the time, I think when you talk of AI, we are usually looking from, I would say, negative point of view, but there are also positives that are coming with AI integration and so forth. So hence I was saying, and I'm not sure if whether she's answered, she will indicate, so that as we live here, we already know that this is coming our way, while we are still waiting for the national law as far as copyright is concerned. But what is that we are doing as the institution? But also, what are other higher education institutions in our space are doing in terms of managing this particular space? I will give you last chance and then give other colleagues.
Yes, I think I agree with you, Dr. Chana, to say, I think as we move forward, we really need to be sitting in one room and then agreeing, more especially if you look at the, I think maybe pieces of legislation, We know that in 2024, last year in August, the Department of Communication gave out the guidelines on AI framework, which when you look at it, they are sort of saying, hey, you are out there, you are on your own, because they are not really giving us much, And then when you come back to the institution, when we've got copyright policy and also the AI guidelines that we have developed, which I think for us, we do appreciate, because as an institution, I always say we should have long done that immediately these issues came into our space. If you look at some of the universities, sister universities, they've developed guidelines on use of AI long time ago, 3 or 4 years ago, which almost as this is a developing arena, each time there is something, then they will say, no, let's revise, let's improve here and there. So I agree with that notion to say, I think this debate should not have an end point. We should just say we are pausing here, but we will continue. And I think, Tsepo, we really appreciate that the debate that we had on the 23rd of April, it's now continuing at this level. And very soon, possible towards the end of the year, we may need also to come as Unisians and say, where do we stand? And yeah, but Dr. Chano, I'm losing my thinking in this.
No, I think it was alongside to say, between the AI policy guidelines and copyright policy, we just need to align those provisions, especially for the academics, researchers to then say, if I were to do this, am I on the right path, or I may be contravening some of the provisions?
Yes, and if I had my own way, really, as a last bite, I would have already said to Dr. Mwepe, Prof. Mwepe, say, let's establish an AI office in the library, which can give guidelines to our students and even our academics, and then we may have various seminars, really just to say, people, we are in the AI space, let's be proactive. Thank you
so much. Mepala was itching. I will give you a chance, Dr. Msaka. She was itching.
Thank you, Doc. Indeed, I was. For me, and again, as a librarian, it comes out, the simple question is that the Unisa tutorial or material, is it open, in the open access? Is it something that if I Google now, or ask a Copilot to get it for me, will it get it? If not, then we cannot put it in ChatGPT. Okay. But because if we're saying it's not, then Unisa is copywriting it. And if Unisa sees it there can also be a case of saying, why did you take our material without ethical clearance?
But before you proceed, I heard yes from the audience when you ask if you want to ask, say, Google a search engine, EUP 1501, will you get it? And someone said yes. Did I hear properly? Yes. Maybe you want to unpack so that she can respond, because I think she's giving a legal advice here. Yeah.
In my opinion, well, with AI, there are no rules. So what AI does, with machine learning and deep learning, it retrieves anything that's shared on the internet. So, yeah. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying a lot of things at the same time. You can retrieve anything unless... Okay, the reason why it's easier to retrieve certain things, it's based on what we as students or academics share with AI or the internet itself. So that's why it would be easier for me to just write to Copilot and say, please retrieve a certain tutorial from Unisa for me. It will do that. And then you can just download it, and so yeah.
I wanted to respond, that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Thank you. So basically what she's saying, our material is out there. And if you go to those third parties that I was talking about earlier, they are downloading our material, they put them on their own databases and sell to students to make money. So our material is already there.
Okay, because if it's out there, then you can put it, it's already out there. But if it's copyrighted, for example, any article that is in Science Direct, or maybe a policy that Unisa has archived in their own secure space, then you can't. You have to ask first about that thing. So the clear indication would be, is it open access or is it a paid up, subscription?
Okay.
Otherwise,
Yeah, I think just to clarify, when I'm saying it is out there, it is not us as Unisa who put it there.
Yeah, then it's not.
It is
Then
the
you
third
can't use
parties.
Then you can't use it.
Okay.
You see, on top of on that argument, Doc, there is cases that are actually on where people have taken other people's material without their consent and put them in ChatGPT. Yes, if you think about it, it will take long for you to say who put it there, whatever. But once a person does, it's that kind of a thing where you're saying you have plagiarized, and when we find you, then it's a problem.
Okay.
But if you can manage to escape, yes, it's another.
Dr. Masaka, and then I will go back to Dr. Quiros to check if she's now clear. And I'm told that there are a number of questions. So you might want to write, they said there are a lot of questions. So you might want to write them down. Dr. Masaka?
Thanks. I believe the questions are for Dr. Shivas and Phala, but anything you responding to Dr. Dorothy regarding the part of, we come from a school of thought that says you don't need to reference in an abstract. Some say you may reference an abstract. So whenever you generate, because as a reviewer, as an editor, it's so annoying to read an AI-generated abstract. You go like, where's the voice, where's the thought here? Even making a student's task like that. So reference is ideal, but you cannot reference from a school of thought that I come from in an abstract. All I'm trying to say, now we are coming to a society, much as we need to embrace AI, because the minute it gets to be in a dark market, like Dr. Chiva said, we should have done it years ago. It's difficult to tell to society that's used to the dark market, or black market rather, of AI utilization. Say, here's a regulation, now let's go for this. They'll always use it freely and so on. And when you mark such an assignment, you go like, here's a disadvantage. Someone who doesn't have an AI tool or internet, for example, writes fail from the mind and from references, and here's an AI generated. So disparities between the two, it makes you subjective in marking, but that's not our point. Our point is that now we're moving to a society which is more cobotic. That means you use robotics, AI, and human intervention factor in it in order to minimize the issue of dependency. Because when there's no internet, one cannot write instead of using the reference library. So that element of dependence, we need to cut it out by legalizing the AI utilization. They must use it in a fair way, in a regulated manner. Therefore, it can be referenced from a library point. Dr. Chivas is right. May the ED of the library have that very room developed, that AI be accessed from the institutional library. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go online. Dr. Quiros.
Thank you, Dr. Chano and the panelists. I think it's something that we're going to need to dig deeper into, as you say, and perhaps come up with policy. At the moment, I'm just watching from the sidelines in terms of how different people are using AI. And this is a very big question for me before we start posting chunks of either Unisa's work or our own work onto AI. So thank you very much. I think there's lots of discussion, and I think I'm still going to play safe and wait for answers. But thank you for that, and thank you for the willingness there in the room to dig into this very important question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Quiros.
Thank you, Dr. Janu. Few questions from online people. The first one, which might be related to what Dr. Chivasa was talking about, it is from Alert Force.
Sorry, let's do like this. I see Dennis wants to respond, and then you'll then ask those questions all at once. Dennis, let's give you a chance. Please unmute.
in relation to Dorothy's question, I just wanted to say we have to consider copyright. So would you put that material up on the web without permission? Why would you put it up without permission? Is it open access? Have you got permission? You know, what's the situation? You normally wouldn't put it on if it was copyrighted without getting permission. So why would you put it into AI? Because when you put something into AI, it becomes part of the soup. It becomes the database, and they then got a bigger soup to, scrape and do various things with it. You'll never put your bank details or your home details or your personal details onto AI because it becomes part of the database. So you've got to consider Popeye, personal privacy. You've got to consider copyright. So just think about, would you put it on the web just like that? If not, don't put it on AI. Another thing is people are doing peer review and editing and examinations even on AI. I'm very wary about that because you're also putting people's work into a database. That's their copyright. And even if the university holds the copyright, it's the university's copyright that's going into that database. Plus, what about the moral rights of the author? If there's something false going on, the moral rights in the copyright law for authors. So you've got to be very careful, even like translating. If you translate someone's work, you've got to make sure it's a correct translation and not changing the whole meaning of the work. So I'd be very wary that if you put a whole, or even a page of, a course pack or whatever into a internet, you should know that you can do it, that it is possible to do it. And just ask the question, would you make copies of this for all your students? And think about, and that's where fair use, I think, is going to be helpful. You're going to have to look at the form criteria, the nature of it, the purpose of it, and also how much you're taking. And then the fourth thing, are you causing a problem with the exploitation of that work in the market for the author and creator? So I think be very careful when you put stuff into AI. Also, when you use material, I think one of the good things that some people or institutions are doing is insisting that when you use something, and say in your research, that you put your prompts or copies of your prompts and the replies into an annexure in your thesis or dissertation, so that they show that these parts are AI generated and that's where you got it from. And your prompt. And then someone talked about, the prompt itself. The prompt itself is your copyright. I mean, you're putting it out there in a database now, but you are creating that work. And if it's your original work, obviously it's your copyright. But then once it goes into the machine's generating and taking from everybody else's, all from the same soup. I'll talk about soup because it literally goes into a big database. Then you don't know what's coming out of it. So just be very careful. What you put in, you get out. So if you put rubbish in, you get out rubbish, like the old story of computers. I hope that answers your question, Dorothy.
Yeah, thanks so much. Garbage in, garbage out. And I think, Mekhumutso, what I'm hearing and what Dr. Chivasa was proposing, especially as client services, there is so much work for you now as a library in terms of education and awareness. You go on this wave of, seminars like this, workshops, training, so that then both staff and students can understand, am I following the right protocols in terms of what I'm doing? Because you might find that others are already doing this, but they are not aware that what they are doing might be in contravention of certain, legislation and so forth. So maybe something, if you were to ask what is the outcome, we are not yet at the end, but I think I'm hearing it out, coming out of the discussions as well. Yeah, this is the time now to read those questions that are posted on the chat. I'm still yearning for 2 or 3 from the audience to also engage our panelists, or also you give your own reflection as well. As you will be reading those questions, I'm also looking at the audience if there is one. We can't leave if at least you have engaged us as a student perspective, but let's hear from the audience after these questions, and my panelists will be writing down, and you can indicate which one you want to respond to.
Thank you, Dr. Janu. The first one is from Alert Force. How do you reference AI? And the next one is from Danny Boy Moloto. I've experienced lots of articles generated by AI, how authentic they are. And we have received, I think this one you have read, Dr. Janu, for it was a comment from Geda, so that one has been taken care of. The next one is from Advocate Nzaluba. How do we deal with the AI due diligence processes that are currently being used for academic purposes? Is there no inherent infringement of the sweat of the brow? I hope you got that. So as I continue to the next one from Denise, I'm picking up the name that I can pronounce, Rampomani. This seemed to be a comment, but it's a bit longer. Kind greetings, colleagues joined late, received the invitation late. Regarding the usage of artists' works, a small portion we must take into account the Haupt case. The argument was infringement on a piece of coding that was misappropriated, quality versus quantity. The UK government is going to make web scraping permissible, meaning deployers of AI misappropriating artist material without recognizing them, and then they are allowed to commercialize. Evidently, this flies in the face of fair use. This cannot stand, even in South Africa, with the cap. So that's the end of that comment. The other question from Tumba to Seku. I write my abstract and I ask AI to improve it. Is this permissible or not? Please advise. Alert Force came back as well to say, so students are allowed to use ChatGPT, I think he wanted to say GPT, in their work assignment. Is there a percentage of use? What is the impact of the use of ChatGPT in Tenet in reports? The last one which just came in from Mrs. Oosthuizen, who is now a consulting author of the research to ask deeper info on specific data in research. Will AI answer you, and how will you contact AI author? Even possible? Geda just came back again to say, a student mentioned to me that, gosh, it's now getting a lot. A student mentioned to me that while working on his thesis, he uses AI tools to help locate relevant articles. He then verifies the sources and integrates the information into his literature review. In such cases, how can we establish appropriate oversight or guidance to ensure academic integrity is maintained?
Yeah. Maybe let's pause for now.
Okay.
In case they forget those questions.
Yeah.
I think there will be quite a few. Who wants to start?
I want to start.
Okay.
Because it's more librarian stuff that they were asking. One is the issue of referencing. My take is that, remember I talked about transparency. Mm-hmm. When you have used it and how you have used it, reference it. Whether it's allowed or not, bottom line is you have to be transparent of how you have used it. There is an indication of how you can reference it, but at least it will give us, or the lecturer or the supervisor, an understanding of how you can then address the issue and help your student. That is in terms of referencing.
Maybe-
Authenticity.
Maybe before that, I think the question, if I had it, is the how part.
Yeah.
So, have you updated your LibGuides, maybe in terms of APA style, Chicago style, or Harvard, so that if the student goes to LibGuide, then they say, this is how you can reference AI material.
Yes, we do have a LibGuide that addresses those references.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe if we can get it, post it on the chat, the link to that LibGuide, post it on the chat.
The one of critical information literacy.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah.
And then in terms of authenticity, I think we have emphasized that, particularly with ChatGPT, you cannot say it's authentic, because what are you referencing it to if you're saying it's authentic? Because it just takes all the scraps, like Denise is saying, it's a soup. And in that soup, you just then decide to say it's chicken soup. But it's not chicken soup, because it's a mixture of all other things. With respect to editing, yes, you can use it for editing, but that which you have written. So what I've seen students doing is that they will ask ChatGPT, and then they will go to Grammarly and say, edit it for me, and then they will say it's their work. The machine is going to steal, because it uses, it's a machine written with codes. It will detect it as AI written text. And so you can't dodge that one. You just have to write your own, and then like I think it's Denise also who said, we were paying editors to edit our work. So it is actually right, and it's efficient and cheap to use AI to actually edit your work. That is it's acceptable.
So basically what you are saying, that colleague that asked, I'm writing my abstract, I put it on AI to improve it. So your response is that even if they put it on AI, like they will have written it, put it on Grammarly or Quillbot,
yes,
to improve the grammar there. What are you saying?
I say it's correct. For example, Unisa has bought a Writeful. So if you write in your Word document, whatever that you write, Writeful will actually improve your English, improve your sentence construction. It will actually guide you. If maybe you are writing a literature review, it might even give you a sentence palette where how to start that narrative that you are trying to write. It is your words, it is your context. So yes, it's correct.
Okay.
In terms of no ChatGPT for academic work, I would discourage them to actually use ChatGPT for any academic work. Rather, ask ChatGPT a question. For example, this is what I want to write. My assignment is like this, and this is what I want to write. Can I ask such a question? Is it a legitimate question? Or this is my question, rephrase it for me. But don't tell ChatGPT, write this essay for me. That's not, we shouldn't go there, because we are not learning. ChatGPT should be your assistant. It should be, it should enhance your knowledge and teach you to a large extent. But also there are AI that are made for academic, for example, Claude. But again, use it for asking questions, use it for learning, not as an assistant, not as as something that you want to do your work. I don't know if I'm making sense. In terms of literature review, we do have also a LibGuides that has examples of AI that you can use for literature review. For example, I know you speak a lot about SciSpace, Dr. Janu, those kind of things, like quinoas. But what they do is they will teach you even how to read properly and understand the methodologies and all those kind of things. But again, coming to your point, it is the responsibility of the library to actually create space of learning in terms of workshops. I think it's Dr. Chivashe actually who said that, you supported. Yes, in terms of actually teaching. And that's why academic integrity or AI literacies are critical at this point in time. And lastly, Dr. Janu, is that I think it's about time, like we did with Rightful, that we at least choose one that we can have a paid for, software like, let's say, SciSpace in this argument, and then our student then can learn the full features of what AI can do for them. And I think somewhere, somehow, it's also the question of data privacy. It's better than when they're using open access and free versions of these softwares. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So basically your message is that AI should not be an author.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
No, I really do concur with Mpala that AI should not be an author. But at the same time, you just need to acknowledge that AI tools are competing one another, they are marketing. So even if you don't use it, you get a pop-up on the screen, because like, try this one, then you go for it. So what I'm saying is you can have a pop-up, but you know that institutionally, we use this one at institution, then go for the one which is regulated. And it will always be refined. Each time we have more usage in it, its flaws and its advantages, then they get to upgrade it. So I think it's high time that we go for that one. But even above, AI cannot be replacing human beings, because that element of dependency comes much more into question. And speaking to creative outputs, we do understand that, of course, I think it was regulated in the graphic design and the information design, that you don't need to use a certain percentage of the original design. You can augment it, verify it, and then produce in your own way a version. If I told you there's litigation, you can justify that this is how much percentage I've used and this is how much I've let out. So all the artworks are used as reference of the new one, much as all the literature material produced is used as a reference of the old one. That's why when you do literature review, you see what has been written in order to bring your own. Although currently we are saying AI brings in, but now AI just goes on what we call biasness. Who does it choose from? From which source base does it choose from? So the voice of the author really needs to come in. Then you can the voice of the author. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Chivasa?
Thanks. And I think also just to complement what colleagues have indicated already, you know, for me, on the how do I reference AI, you know, and I think politically, geopolitically, you know, some institution, if you go to institution in Europe, most of the universities, including the library, are advanced. They've already developed guidelines to say, how do I reference AI work, generated work? Yes, I mean, those guidelines are there. So, which means also, library, we are giving you more work now, you know, because I think the best place for this reference guide needs really to be in the library, you know, to say what is it that we need to put in there, that reference guide to guide our students, including us as academics, to say how do I reference the AI generated work. There was also a question on how authentic is the work that is generated by AI, you know, and I think it's very difficult to answer that because for us, it may depend on the amount of work that this AI has generated for you. Like I said, one of the engineers indicated to say, you know, the more you go deeper, the more you may really be lost in the plot of what is it that you wanted. So I think one will also, just to say, we just need to be careful to say the amount of work that I've generated and what are the tools that I will use to make sure that I'm sure that this work is authentic, you know. Yes, of course, I think dealing with the issue of the sweat and the broth. For me, I wish this colleague can just be in front of me that I can engage the colleague. Just to say, maybe in terms of guidelines, this is what one can come to. And of course, I think, this morning I was listening to the radio, and quite interesting things came out, There is now a company in South Africa that has an AI-generated tool that can translate into 11 languages. Yes, I heard it this morning, and I was so much interested that I said, hey, maybe I need to go onto their get their podcast and just get more information on this, because I think it will also change the scenario. However, we need to be cautious, My daughter used to love the Google Translate, She will just log in and say Google Translate. And at times when I read it, it totally translates something totally different from what we are saying. And I said, that made me not to trust Google Translate. In fact, I don't trust it. I think maybe on there was a question also to say I'll do the assignment, submit it to turn it in, and also then it will come out, and can I use it? Can I submit as my own assignments? I think that becomes academic integrity issues, which I think also maybe we may need to say, how can we make everyone to be aware of the academic integrity issues, not only for our students, right from us as lecturers, because I suspect that at times we want our students to play academic integrity game, whereas ourselves we are not playing it, And how do I know the AI authors, as I indicated, that maybe it may need to say, once you have generated these and authors are coming, you may need to dig deeper on, say, who came first with these ideas, I think that would be, that would be my input.
All right. I want to go to Dennis. You want to take a bite on some of the question? And I think we also need to do justice and give Advocate Nzaluba a chance, perhaps, to unpack her question so that then the panelists can respond to it. But Dennis, do you want to also add? Please unmute.
Sorry. I have put quite a few answers in the chat or suggestions, but what I think is most important is that libraries market their collections and their resources. They spend millions on these resources, and they should be promoting them as accredited, internationally accepted, indexed journals and books, with references and the HR factors, all that. If you're looking at going to content in AI, who has written it, where's it coming from? Even if they've referenced it, there's false references as well. Why are we people looking at the content of AI really for research? Why are they not generating their own through accredited journals and resources that libraries offer every day? Do we want machines to take over libraries' jobs? Because people are concerned that AI is going to take over their work. If we keep giving in and letting AI do more and more for us, certainly we're going to lose our jobs.
No. All right. Thank you so much, Dennis. Advocate Nzaluba, if you can open your mic and unpack your question, because I think there was legal terms.
I hope I'm audible.
You are.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Program Director, for actually getting a revelation that there's some well behind the question. Thank you to Dr. Chivasa. I want us to be practical about this. And Dr. Jano always know my take. that a software you've not manufactured, you can't claim to know its capabilities, right? And I want to take you to the time when South Africa came with free and open software, FOSS. That could not be implemented for a variety of reasons. And the aim was to improve the industriousness in software and in ensuring that South Africa is leading. But we're still where we are. That could not take traction. Ask yourself why. There was a number of terms like copyright and copyleft. I'm not there. But let me take you to what I want us to address. At some point, we must accept that we are in a game where the manufacturers are at every moment developing a capability. And I think one of the colleagues articulated that at our international research conference that we had, IP, international IP, where we had musicians. The truth of the matter that you can get a genre that is not linked to anything, but is a genre generated. Now, I don't want to go there. I want to go to the academic prowess of ourselves. If you look at some of the requirements when you're conducting due diligence, and noting that currently you are able, it is happening in other countries, and they are using the same AIs that are developed somewhere else, and they are in the public cloud, that you could take Advocate Nsaluba's journal or article, you dump it there as a reviewer, and it spits everything for you. Now, the article is better, but look at our role as academic and as academic advocates, that we need to protect the integrity of anything that we do due diligence on. And this is where my question is. And I plead that you read what I've not said in what I've said, but I don't want to go deeper on it. How do we ensure that as a library, which is the hub for knowledge generation and knowledge transmission and a reservoir of all databases, that we don't operate in a public cloud? One of the colleagues said, if you put it on a cloud, it's gone. Of course, if then you take my article, which has not yet been published, you put it on that private cloud, the same thing happens. I want to use myself so that you can infer in what I'm saying. So these are the issues that I would want us to deal with insofar as copyright is concerned. And I'm quite aware of the developments within the CAP, but the issue for me is how do we, once we are still awaiting the finalization and all those due diligence processes, ensure that our protocols protect what rightfully belongs to the author at all material times. When you are using an AI capability that is not yours, and its data privacy protocols are not known to you, you are assuming that it is a closed cloud. You don't have verification that is a closed cloud. That is my question around the sweat of the brow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Advocate. As lawyers, they are not necessarily straight to the point. You will have heard she started giving background first to her question, but basically it's around due diligence. And it's for us now to reflect, to say, given all these challenges, as an academic institution, while we are still waiting, and I think Dr. Chivas, you did indicate that we are still waiting for the law to be signed off, but while we are still waiting, what is that we have to do in protection of academic integrity that you have talked about? And I think what she mentioned reminded me of some of the observations that I've done when I was doing a lot of seminars and training around AI. How many of us before we use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, go to privacy statement and read privacy statement to say what's going to happen with the data that I input here. If the same applies with the minutes now, we have got Read AI and a lot of minutes taking tools, but do we know the privacy statement of Microsoft as the company or as the tenant to our data? And I think what she's asking is along those lines to say we also need to know and understand the tools that we engage, particularly from the perspective of data privacy. If you check in the Southern Hemisphere, and is the research that we are currently doing, in the Southern Hemisphere, we don't have data privacy laws or regulations as far as these AIs are concerned. We're still relying on GDPR, which is produced by European Commission. And what does that say? One of the colleagues that we're engaging also then asked to say, if these AI companies are coming into our space, most of them, they are corporate companies like Dr. Chivas was saying earlier, they want for their models to work better, they need data so that they train. And I think it's what most of you are saying. When we put that data there, especially those training models or algorithms that are put there, is then to say, how do I perfect? Because natural language processing is to study the patterns of words and say, when I'm going to construct a sentence, immediately after the preposition of, what comes afterwards. That's what they are trained for. And the more we feed the information, the more they improve in terms of their precision and so forth. But I think it goes back to say, do a lot of people know about this? And how do we then play academic citizenship role to train those that are not aware in terms of some of this? And I'm just looking at privacy of data. There are many elements of ethical considerations that we have to think about. I think someone also talked about the bias that is there in algorithms. And Dr. Chivas, you also give an example of a language. When Google Translate, I think it has improved. You still don't trust it, but it has improved compared to what it was before. But the algorithm that are put there, who built that particular algorithm? Have they been, socialized into our context? Have they traveled far enough, read far enough to understand the context? And for those that are within this space, you might know IBM. It's one of the leading computer companies. When they produced their Watson robot, it was found that it was discriminatory against people of the darker skin. And do you blame them, or do you then blame their policies around how they build this? Do the people that build those algorithms, are they trained enough in terms of various cultural beliefs and so forth? And those are part of the discourse that we need to be having going forward. But I think we have had quite a mouthful of discussions. We have heard from our panelists. All of them, both in the room and online, were fantastic, isn't it? Can we give them a round of applause? And also thank you, Dennis Online. I think you are also giving a lot of critical inputs to the discourse. And what I'm hearing is that we are not ending here. We're going to have continuous engagements in a form of webinars, seminars, and so forth, so that we can take the discourse forward. From my point, I'm one of the people that are leading the development of the university AI policy and the guidelines, and I was requested to give the status update. We have socialized them late last year around November, but MENCO gave us feedback to say we didn't socialize it enough. So we have to go wide in terms of our socialization of the policy and the guidelines. So, and I think I saw on the chat, one of the colleagues was asking to say, can I have a copy of AI policy? It is not yet approved by council. It has to be approved by council first. So we very soon be on the lookout on INTCOM. I think in terms of the library as well, we'll be coming here. I don't think we engaged you thoroughly. We just invited few colleagues that were working within our AI space. We'll come specifically to the library as well and engage you. And I think it's for you now to look all what we're discussing about licensing, agreements, cataloging, archiving, are they finding expression in the policy and the guidelines? And you are better positioned then to guide us. So what I'm saying is that we're gonna having a community, Unisa community-wide consultations as far as the AI policy and the guidelines are concerned. Our wish was that we wanted it to be approved by the first quarter of this year, but unfortunately, MENCOM said, no, go back, consult widely. And I'm giving an example, in the policy, we talked about just partly earlier, use of AI for research, for assessments, for teaching and so forth. There are those provisions because we are embracing AI. But what are the implications for various users as far as that is concerned? That is why MENCOM felt let's consult widely. And if you look in terms of AI, you cannot talk of AI without automation. Some of the processes will be automated. If you look, I gave example of read AI, for example, just for minute taking. What are we saying now to the administrators whose responsibility or one of the KPA revolve around meetings governance and so forth? So how do we then foresee the future of their own responsibilities? Are we then saying they must pick and go? Or are we then saying there must be some reskilling that has to take place and so forth? And I think those are part of the discussions that we'll have around the AI policy. I also want to give Dr. Chivas a chance to also reflect and give status update on the copyright policy from Unisa perspective. We do understand that we are still waiting for the presidency, but from Unisa perspective, where are we as far as the AI, the copyright and plagiarism policy?
Thanks so much, Dr. Chano, much appreciated. In terms of maybe the first level will be just to say in terms of the policies, we are almost submitting now to the council, I think around 24 policies, the revised and the 1 or 2 new policies to the council, which I'm told it will sit now in June. Now, on the copyright guidelines, we need to be careful because we don't have a policy as yet. What we did, we were assisted through Dennis, we do appreciate Dennis, to work on the copyright guidelines while we're waiting for the bill to come into a law. But the guidelines are I think they are very clear and they can take us to the next step forward. Also, we coupled that with plagiarism policy. So both documents, they were at the LSO office, of which the LSO office said no, they are finalizing. And then they will be sending to SR, Strategic Risk. Yes, Ms. Moloi is dealing with that. So I've just send an email to inquire how far are we, However, we've polished the policy, we invited comments, participants, we had 2 webinars where we really had a lot of comments, more especially from academia, which we do appreciate. The first session was attended by about 193 academics, the second one by about 240. So I think it's a well-rounded of policy, and we hope it can survive. It can make us survive until the courts and the parliament decide on the Copyright Act.
So I think similar to AI policy, they are both there. It's a matter of observing governance protocols until they are approved by council. Yes. Okay. I think my work is done. I'm calling on my program director now to finish up the program. Thank you so much. You have been a good audience. I really appreciate, and I hope you have learned a lot from this discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you so
much. Colleagues, what a very interesting session. There were so many things said. I will never forget the chicken soup. I think when I walk out of here and I think about AI, I will always think of this mixture of things. We started off with speaking about the soup, and then Refilwe ended up giving it a specific connotation in terms of the chicken soup. Thank you. Dr. Marumo started the morning so well, where she posed questions and she said, these are the things that we're going to focus on. And I think we've covered it so well, Doc. You spoke about ethical practice that we should be touching on. You spoke about intelligence, about the future, our reflection and our role of where is AI, what role does it play. You said we specifically need to speak about the challenges. You said we must have discussions, we must engage on it, the tensions that these things cause. And I think ultimately, in terms of answering the question to your theme, should AI be protected? So besides walking away with the chicken soup and the fact that AI is not human, although sometimes when you do speak to it and ask it questions, you are totally convinced that there's somebody on the other side actually getting the answers for you. Yes, Dr. Shivasa did say there will be a session, Dr. Marumo, on fair use, a whole separate discussion. So I'm assuming we're going to be quite busy the rest of the year. And it's quite exciting because I think there's so many issues that came out and things that we need to cover. Colleagues, I have been requested to open the floor up for the last time for the physical colleagues in the room. Are there any burning questions or comments, colleagues, before we release the panel? They are here now. It's a very good time now to raise your question or comment. There is one there. Can we just have a mic, colleagues?
I just want to clarify something with referencing. I heard that we are supposed to, or we should, reference AI. Well, you can't. You can't reference an intermediator. Because with AI, you know what AI does? AI generated content. The word generated, it generates from other databases. So if you want to reference, what you have to do, you have to reference from those databases that the AI took information from, not AI itself. So you cannot say we have to reference AI. You can't. But what you can do, you reference what AI, the content that AI has generated for you. Whatever database it might have generated that information from, because with AI is nothing without the human touch. AI cannot do anything without you telling it what to do. So you cannot say that we have to reference AI. Like, I just wanted to clarify that part, that you cannot say literally that you have to reference AI. No, you have to reference the source of the information where AI generated that information from. Yes. Oh, and also, you just mentioned that, what did you say? You said, remember, like you treating AI as like there's somebody at the back. Well, there is. Yes. Not all of them, but there are those AIs where it's actually a human being writing down the content. Yes. Because it's still like developing. So yeah. There's a company, an AI company that actually does that. It's human, like real human beings, answering all your queries. Yes.
We've got. Should we take the second question before you respond, or would you like to respond to the second one first? Okay. Second question at the back. Oh, sorry. No. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Mine is just a comment as well, not necessarily a question. I think since this morning, there are two things that I thought we engaged on. The first being the issue of the legislation, the regulation. On the other side, we're dealing with the governance. So the legislation is with the state, and the governance is with Unisa. So it's in your hands. But then what do we do on the portion of the governance while we are waiting for the legislative framework to be completed? Yes. My thinking is that on the governance side, that's where Unisa is saying we've got a problem. Researchers will always tell you, what is the problem statement? What are we addressing? So we got a problem that we're giving students a piece of work. They are asking AI to do that piece of work, and then you are marking the work of the AI. So this is my proposal for considerations which might contribute in the governance part, to say, if you think about Popia, for example, you got to, this is where we're talking about disclaimer. We need to enter that part. If it was me, my student is utilizing AI-generated information to address that assignment. The little that I will appreciate is a disclaimer. Acknowledge the fact that you have used AI. The policy framework of Unisa then should say, if a student utilized AI, because you like it or not, it's out there, they will use it. So if there's a disclaimer, how do you then factor I was at some stage, there was, doctor will know, there were some of the lecturers at our former institutions. They will deduct the marks. You got the answers, but because of the spelling errors here and there, the marks goes down. The content is correct. So the same will apply with the AI-generated information. The level that the AI, if your assignment is 100% AI-generated, it's zero. But if as it goes down, then this is the policy framework that Unisa will have to come up with. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate. Thank you. The last question, colleagues.
Good morning. This is also not a question but a comment. I think, as they've already indicated, the library really needs to do some hard work, because what are we referencing? What is reference all about? Reference is about evidence of anything, evidence that you are using the source when you do that reference. So if you understand referencing as evidence of having used a source, so when you reference AI, you are saying, I'm putting evidence that I've used it to paraphrase. But then, I know as a lecturer, of course, I've been marking so many assignments, and students have done, according to them, of course, a good work they've referenced. The assignment is 100% AI. Now, the students will put a reference at the end to say, I've referenced. And that is the incorrect understanding, which goes back to also refile your critical literacy to say what exactly is it to be referenced. And yes, when we say reference AI, we don't say generate and put it to say I used it, but to say with your own work, what exactly have you used for? You have written your abstract, now you say paraphrase for me, correct the grammar. That's what you need to reference to say I use ChatGPT to paraphrase my work, but not to steal from ChatGPT and put it as your own work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give to the panel to respond. I see Dr. Musaku's burning and Ms. Pala.
Are you sure?
Dr. Shivase first. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I'll just respond to that one of the referencing AI. As I indicated, that really the first world country and so on, the institutions and so on, they've got these guidelines. Very simple. You know, if you are a student and I'm doing an assignment, and I say, I want to check what is plagiarism. When I type it on the chat GPT, see what is plagiarism, in my assignment, I'll immediately put it in a line to say in-text citation. Then I say, I've got this information on chat GPT. And at the end, on my reference list, I'll type to say, the author, meaning myself, typed on chat GPT and got a response on this date. And from this generative tool. And that is acknowledged and that is recognized as a part of reference. So that is why I was saying maybe as a library, really we need also to say, how do we really start to say now, let's do the AI guidelines so that students, even when they use it, they can do that. And the second one is that also in some overseas institutions, when students submit assignments, they will indicate to say, this assignment, I was assisted by AI tool to generate the content in this assignment. You know, which already gives the author, the academic marking that assignment to be, oh, this student got this information from this. So it can be done. It's already happening. It's only that in our on this side, we are not yet there, and we truly acknowledge and also acknowledge the comment that was given by Prof here. You know, I think that's something that we should work on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shivas. I think it is fair to say at the moment we have AI, and it's busy developing as. It has been mentioned in the audience that it's busy developing and advancing, and we are lagging behind SSA. So, fine, let the library have a unit. We should be responsible for that, probably from the clients. I'm not so sure from which of the directorates. But in that case, I just need to say, I got a mail this morning from the Federation of the Library Associations and Institutions, which presented several scenarios in their documents saying, if this happens, here are the questions, this is how you can address them. Because they are trying to say, actually, we are taking our guides and the cues from the Federation. So we need to say at the same time, if a student uses AI to generate information or content, it's not referencing, of course, as maybe synonymous ways, it's acknowledgement and disclaimer. Yes, in that sense. So that they say, on this part, I've done this. Because in government, if one was to submit a tender, they say, do you have anyone you know inside nepotism? If not, should they get it? It gets to be withdrawn. Now, hence, we are having AI-generated articles, which are not acknowledged, being withdrawn from journals, saying there's a predatory articles. Because according to law, we need to say, let it be you having it, not someone else. Thank you.
But just to pick up on that and just to ask a direct question for us to understand, not necessarily to debate. Supposing to say it's your assignment, you're writing it using ChatGPT, and you understand that they're talking about in-text citation, and they're talking about the fact that that in-text citation should actually be your reference, and you use ChatGPT, how would you then be transparent and actually acknowledge or be transparent to say, I have used ChatGPT in this way. Yes, we are using a terminology that we're saying it's referencing, but in this regard, we simply want to understand to say, I use ChatGPT, instead of reading prescribed material, an article, I've used ChatGPT. How are you going to be transparent about that process? Because at the end of the day, it's not about referencing or whatever. It's about saying academically, when we write, we're saying, this person concur with my statement, or I am refuting that statement, and these are the scholars that are supporting my statement. And from that background, you then going to say, ChatGPT actually position this statement for me. And it's only fair to say that ChatGPT did it for you. And that will help you, your lecturer, to actually advise you and to help you in academic writing. And again, that's where library comes from. It's not about saying you're right or you're wrong. It's about saying academic writing, this is how we do things, and at the end of the day, this is how transparency in terms of Unisa academic integrity looks like in terms of the policy. I hope that makes sense. You are not wrong, but the fact that you have used it to write, the fact that you have used whatever article that you don't even know, especially with ChatGPT. With Copilot, I know that it might give you a suggestion of saying, this is actually an article that is written by Dr. Janu. Then you go to Dr. Janu's article and read it for yourself. In that regard, you can also say, then I paraphrase my understanding because ChatGPT or Copilot have actually given you a context around that theory or that ideology. Then you write it in your own way, and then you reference Dr. Janu because that is the article, the physical article that you have used. But if you're not taking a step forward to say, this is the article that ChatGPT gave me, Copilot gave me, SciSpace gave me, then you are actually saying, I've used ChatGPT, and it's only fair that you tell us that you use ChatGPT. And how are you going to do that? Professor Brown usually says that in her method, in the students that he is supervising, he says they must write it in their methodology. So I think, Dr. Marumo, what we need to do is to come up with a statement that as Unisa, how do we then say we are transparent in acknowledging, in declaring how we have used AI? That's all that we need to know. And that's all the academic, like Science Direct, Taylor and Francis, they actually saying, declare. If you used it for data collection, data analysis, tell us what you have. And then they will decide to say, yeah, we take that argument. But other than that, no, you have to. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I just want to add on your point to say, as the library, then you need to come up with a statement. Perhaps contact the office of Dr. Rietha Fisagi. When we started with the AI policy and guidelines, the first thing that we worked on was Unisa position statement on academic integrity. And I think rather than maybe starting something, you can leverage what is there and see how you then customize it for library purposes. And I think maybe it's a good initiative that you also engage academics, supervisors, especially the research office, CGS, to then say, we would like to come up with this, and then so that it can fine-tune the final product of the statement that you are proposing. Thank you.
Oh, Denise. Okay, Denise, we will give you an opportunity. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I just have put quite a few links in how to reference AI from good sources. So I've put that in the chat. I've also put that reference that the previous speaker made about IFLA, the entry point document for libraries. I've also put the link on the chat. But I just wanted to stress that if there isn't a reference, don't use it. You know, if you get a reference on ChatGPT or any other AI tool, go and check that reference and make sure that it is correct, and then use it. But if there's no reference, don't use it. Don't use the content either, because you don't know where it's coming from. I mean, and that's where I say libraries are still very important. We need to push our own resources because they are accredited and acceptable. They're not picking up predatory things or false things or rubbish. And they're good, reputable journals and books.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was just going to cite what Denise has said, that a lot of references that Chat will cite are non-existent. So you should always confirm if he or she is proposing this reference, it doesn't exist. But then with the declaration of
what you have used AI for. We are now at the mercy of the student, because we'll say, I've used it to correct grammar, whereas there is so much that is like, it's 100% AI generated. So how will we know that this declaration is actually true? Because if we don't have a system that will assist us to actually pick to the T that this is how far this person has used it, we will not rely on the declaration of the student.
True. Thank you. Colleagues, this is a topic that will not go quiet. There's still so much that we can discuss. Hey, Dr. Marumo, I don't know how you're going to do it, but you will have to have follow-up sessions so that we can engage, and especially within the library as well, engage more. Also the governance issue, engaging more on that. Unfortunately, I'm the bearer of bad news, and I have to now call on Mr. Colin Molefe to close down the session today. Colin, please do come up. And I'm sorry, colleagues, but yes, we will continue.
Can we give a round of applause? I think it's really wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Divier. I'm getting used to your new title. Dr. Mosako, I think on the 23rd of April, when we started this conversation, we didn't realize that it will get us here. Because I remember your presentation very well, because it was more about advancing conversations around copyright observation within the lease sector. Now we are here, and I think we'll continue for the longest period of time. And you did mention the complexities, Mapal, of AI integration in library services and operations. And that gave us a critical insight into the legal, ethical, and operational impacts. So today I could see that there is a lot that we need to work on, and clearly to put ourselves within that space, because library now should be the forefront in terms of what we need to do. Denise, I've seen her many times in my days when I was still part of LIASA. I know how the interest of her lies in terms of copyright, but the inclusion and exclusion of people with disabilities, basically we're looking at the issues of maybe constitutional rights and probably maybe the fair use. I think it will also give us the opportunity to be able to engage further going forward. It's said that we don't have Jack Devon Ryan in our midst today, because he was more worried about what the impact it having on the performers as well. So clearly, maybe in the next coming round of conversation, clearly he will be here and be able to engage further on that one. Dr. Chivas, I think I was interested in your topic the last time, because it was more on should AI-generated content be protected in South Africa by a Copyright Act. Today we're discussing the Copyright Bill, which is now still in the process of becoming a law. The issue of contestation in terms of the ownership, the creators' expectations, acknowledgement and users' access. I think we really have to have this conversation, and we think that it's Hepo Constable in terms of making sure that his office are run with this particular program. And going forward, then we'll be able to know how we're supposed to deal with things. We still have another 6 months of the year. Probably maybe we'll have part of a program like this one to be able to engage, but that will be held by library. There was an input about an AI office within the library. Clearly, that client service will deal with that, if it's possible, Dr. Marumo. But my role is just a simple one. I'm here to give vote of thanks. Dr. Marumo, your office has done fairly well, and our program director, we'd like to thank you. The panel, this has been the best discussion. I feel like it was supposed to be the whole day. Dr. John, no, I think as I was part of the bargaining forum years ago, I would have been part of the deliberations about the AI policy, so that we can be able to scrutinize it very much so that it goes back and forth before the council can be able to approve it. The 110 average number online, they made this session very much impactful, because it's not about the numbers that we see inside here. We've got a lot of people that are attending online, and we are grateful for them to be able to register and be part of this particular discussions. We appreciate the tools that ICT is purchasing, your Rightful, your Grammarly, and clearly it shows that post-COVID, there has been a lot of tools that are coming. So which means in terms of teaching and academic offerings, things are taking a different shift. So we must also position ourselves there. But with everyone that is here, I'd like to say we thank you for coming. And it doesn't end here today. We'll continue with the deliberations going forward with the relevant stakeholders. Thank you very much and have a good day.